Shalom, Ka'ala Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rakal Kodash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect, who are the house of David, reborn again in this generation. And Shalom to the 130 Yasharallah, who today are known as the Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans, who before losing our true heritage, we were known as, and still are, the true Hebrew Israelites of the Holy Bible. In today's lesson, we're going to talk about the pollution upon the earth and how it's only growing worse. This is Matthew 24 and 22. And except those days should be shortened, there should no flesh be saved, but for the elect's sake, those days shall be shortened. So you see, the Messiah, whose true Hebrew name is Yahweh Shai, it's not Jesus, right? He explained how the end of the world would be, right? He says that it's going to be so bad in the end days that if it was allowed to continue, that no flesh, right, no humans would survive, right? But that the world is going to be sped up for the elect's sake, right? Because these devils that are running the world, right? When I say these devils, I'm talking about the nation of Edom, right? The so-called Caucasian race, right? The earth has been given into their hands, as it tells you in Job 9 and 24. Well, they keep managing to destroy the earth, man. It's only getting worse and worse, and their actions only exacerbate the issue, right? And this ultimately is being done on purpose, right? These devils, at first, it was being done because they put profits over health, right? And now it's being done purposely to destroy the inhabitants of the world, right? See, these devils of power, they have a secret 10 commandments that they follow, right? And you can see these on the Georgia Guidestones. Well, the very first commandment is to keep humanity under 500 million, okay? Now, if you're unaware, the earth is close to 8 billion people, okay? So that means about 7.5 billion people need to be eliminated from the earth so that the elites of this world, these Edomite kings, and their demands or their commandments can be met. And what we are living through right now is the agenda to get these devils 500 million population to be a reality. Okay, let's go and read this article that I thought it'd be good for you to understand what's going on with, right? It says chemical pollution has passed safe limit for humanity, says scientists. You see that, right? You see, the earth is now so polluted that is no longer considered safe. Now, there's still places in the earth where the pollution levels are low enough to where it's still, very good to live at, right? But the thing is that by and large, the cities, the mass populated areas is so bad now, right? That humanity is going to find it really hard to exist at a level where it did before. Okay, let's read this article and we'll go through some of the topics that are brought up. It says, a study calls for a cap on production and release as pollution threatens global ecosystems upon which life depends. It says, in the photo, it says firefighters take part of an emergency drill against winter chemical hazards and accidents in China's Inner Mongolia Autonomous Region. It says the cocktail of chemical pollutions that pervades the planet now threatens the stability of global ecosystems upon which humanity depends, scientists have said. Plastics are of particularly high concern, they said, along with 350,000 synthetic chemicals, including pesticides, industrial compounds, and antibiotics, right? And just real quick, man, so you understand what synthetics are, man. Synthetics are man-made chemicals, right? Usually derived from petroleum, oil, right? Back in the, I think it was in like the 40s, 50s, Esau was able to find out how to create new chemicals by basically synthesizing, right? New chemicals, right? By manipulating molecules, making things, they were able to come out with tons and tons of new chemicals, right? And a big company behind this is Dow Chemical, right? Dow itself is responsible for creating Teflon, which Teflon now has basically polluted almost everybody in the world, right? If you look at pretty much everybody's body makeup, everybody now has this Teflon chemical inside of them, and it's basically it's a horrible thing, man. It destroys your body, it destroys fertility, right? And this is all due to these devils, actions, man. So you see, these Edomites that rule the world, man, because they are the physical manifestation of Satan upon earth, it doesn't matter what they do, even if they have good intentions themselves. What's going to happen is that their actions are going to ultimately produce horrible results. Okay, that's just the way it's going to work. Let's continue. It says, plastics are a particularly high concern, they say, along with 350,000 synthetic chemicals, including pesticides, industrial compounds, and antibiotics. Plastic pollution is now found from the summit of Mount Everest to the deepest oceans, and some toxic chemicals such as PCBs are long-lasting and widespread, right? And PCBs, man, are basically those things like phthalates and the stuff that they basically put in plastics, which basically mimic synthetic estrogen, and it basically destroys your fertility, man, men testosterone, basically, right? And it causes cancers. Continuing, the study concludes that chemical pollution has crossed a planetary boundary, the point at which human-made changes to the earth push it outside the stable environment for the last 10,000 years. Chemical pollution threatens Earth's systems by damaging the biological and physical processes that underpin all life. For example, pesticides wipe out many non-target insects, which are fundamental to the ecosystem and therefore to the provision of clean air, water, and food. Right? And that's true, because when you look at the bees, for example, man, the reason why the bees are being killed off is because of the Monsanto pesticide Roundup, right? And these devils don't want to admit it, right? Because Monsanto's already in a huge, lawsuit about their Roundup fertilizer that they're trying to hide this. Right? But again, that's why you're seeing such a mass kill-off of these of the bees, man. Because not only that, but also you have companies like Home Depot selling plants that have been fertilized with these what do they call them? They're called like insecticides, or there's certain chemicals that are used, synthetic pesticides basically, that are used to fertilize these plants, right? And ultimately keep away certain animals. Well, what the problem is that they also kill out bees, right? Well, let's continue. There has been a 50-fold increase in the production of chemicals since 1950s, and this is projected to triple again by 2050. Man, we're not gonna. By the way, man, these devils are not gonna be in power by then. All right, we are soon upon the second coming of the Messiah, right? And when he comes, these devils are going to be taken out of power, right? ASAP. Said Patricia Villarrobia Gomez, a PhD candidate and research assistant to the Stockholm Resilience Center, who was part of the study team. The pace that society societies are producing and releasing new chemicals into the environment is not consistent with staying within a safe operating space for humanity. Dr. Sarah Connell, an associate professor and principal researcher at SRC, said, "For a long time, people have known that chemical pollution is a bad thing, but they haven't been thinking about it at the global level. This work brings chemical pollution, especially plastics, into the story of how people are changing the planet. Some threats have been tackled to a larger extent," the scientists said, such as the CFC chemicals that destroy the ozone layer and its protection from damaging ultraviolet rays. It says, determining whether chemical pollution has crossed a planetary boundary is complex because there are no pre-human baselines, unlike with the climate crisis and the pre-industrial levels of CO2 in the atmosphere. There are also a huge number of chemical compounds registered for use, about 350,000, and only a tiny fraction of these have been assessed for safety. So the research used a combination of measurements to assess the situation. These include the rate of production of chemicals, which is rising rapidly, and their release into the environment, which is happening much faster than the ability of authorities to track or investigate the impacts. It says the well-known negative effects of some chemicals from the extraction of fossil fuels, right? Esau and his oil, to produce them to produce them to their leaking into the environment, right? Because you always hear about these oil spills from pipelines to offshore rigs to, just simply, ships crashing, man. These devils have polluted the earth. It says, we're also part of the assessment. The scientists acknowledged the data was limited in many areas, but said the weight of evidence pointed to a breach of the planetary boundary. And that's pretty much it, man. I'm not going to read the whole thing, but this just shows you, man, that these devils, they've done the research, and they know that through all their actions that they've managed to destroy the earth, right? This is just the way that things are happening, man. That Esau, when left in rulership and given the power to lead the world, this is where it gets led to, right? To a place of destruction, of pollution, a place where life does not flourish. And why is that? Well, because these are the sons of perdition. These are the people who foster death, okay? This is where their leadership comes from. And why is that? Well, because the scriptures say, man, that God is not in any of their thoughts, right? So these devils, they don't live by the scriptures, though they say they do, right? They'll have you swear on the Bible and everything, but everything that they do, all their actions are contrary to the Bible. And that's because these people are the adversaries to not only us Israelites, us Negro, Latino, Native Americans, but also to God, right? They in fact will be fighting the Lord upon his return. This is Isaiah 24:4. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languishes and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws, changed the ordinance, broken the everlasting covenant. Therefore hath the curse devoured the earth, and they that dwell therein are desolate. Therefore the inhabitants of the earth are burned, and few men left. Right? And that's ultimately what happens, man. Right? The people who are dwelling in this earth, man, we're desolate, man. If you look at the testosterone levels of men in the last 2 decades, it's plummeted, right? This is why, but this has all been on purpose, man. This is why these devils, they put that synthetic estrogen on receipts, right? because they, which when you go to the store and you fill the receipt papers, uh, that's that funny like powdery feeling on it. What that is, that's synthetic estrogen. And when you hold it or you touch those receipts, especially when your hands are wet, your body absorbs it into itself, right? And this was used because these devils, they couldn't get the synthetic estrogen approved for human consumption. So Dow Chemical, what they did is they found another use for it, and it would be to insulate receipt paper so it wouldn't turn black when it's being stored, man, right? Because those receipt papers, they get printed on with heat activation, right? That's what turns, that's what makes the letters on receipt paper, man. That's why if you leave your receipt out in the sun or in your car, when you come back a few days or a few months later, and stuff like that, that paper's all black, right? Because that's the way that paper works, man. But see, this is just one of the few things that these devils do, man, right? See, in their actions to create something, it manages to produce something of destruction, man, death, right? This is Micah 2:10. Arise ye and depart, for this is not your rest, because it is polluted. It shall destroy you, even with the sword destruction, right? And this right here is a clarion call to all you Negro, Latino, Native Americans, you Israelites, right? This is telling you that the place that we are in our captivity till this day, that this is not our rest, man. We're not to be seeking to build an empire, our heaven here on this earth, man, because this place is not only physically polluted, but it's also spiritually polluted, man. When you look at the ways of this world, the way that things are conducted, what is allowed to thrive and be pushed upon the people and the children, what's tolerated here, what's pushed as good and what's pushed as evil, everything is off, man. It's spiritually polluted, right? So you couple that with the physical pollution of the world from these devils spraying all these chemtrails to all the you just read, all those plastics that have permeated across the entire world, man, right? These devils have thrown a monkey wrench into the Lord's earth, right? And its system of refreshing, man. This is why the earth is languishing, and this is why this place is polluted, right? So what you should do, as it tells you in the scripture, is to depart out of the ways of living in this world, man. Start growing your own food if that's possible, right? Or buy organic, or buy less processed food. Drink high alkalinized water, right? Do things that will reduce your interaction and exposure to these bad plastics, man. If you have a perfect example is when you feel something that's plastic, but it has that rubbery feeling to it. If you put your nail on it and it doesn't compress, right? You can't leave a little indent in it. Then that means that's that hard plastic that has the PCB phthalates treated on it to give it that rubberized feeling, right? It's a cheap way to make plastic feel like more expensive, rubberized, right? But the problem is when that peels off, that right there is it can break down into like cancerous chemicals in your body, man, right? And you look at how many water bottles are out there, how many remote controls are out there, and then when you look at those things, man, you'll see that chemical, that rubberized spray, like it has little parts that are chipped off. Where do you think those things go, man? They go on your skin, they go on your nails, and then you put your nails in your mouth, and so forth, man. You see, this is the pollution that we're living through today out here. So I just wanted to read that article. I thought it was a good thing to show, man, that we're living in the last days of the last days, man. This place is done for. It's through, right? So this is why we need the Lord to come back, man, because we need to be saved out of this, man, because there's no way that we're going to be able to save ourselves out of this, man, right? These devils have destroyed this ship which we call earth, man. They've destroyed it, man, right? And we need divine intervention to be saved out of these things, man. Like it tells you in the first scripture I read, man, that that we need the Lord to speed up time, right? But Ka'alai Yahweh Hashem Hashai, that this is the year of turning up. So with all that, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Ba'Shem Rukok Radash. Double honors my teachers, the apostles and elders of Great Millstone. Peace and mercy to the elect. Shalom.